What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today, as you can see in the gameplay, we are taking it to our Warlock on the Solar subclass, rocking the exotic Vex Mythoclast, absolutely destroying Guardians with that Radiant because of our exotic boots, the Rain of Fire. These things are nasty with Warlock, and I think this combo, one of the best inside of PvP right now. Like I said in some of my past videos recently, that I know we're getting a lot of changes inside of Lightfall for that sandbox for PvP, PvE as well. So holding off on a lot of my build videos because they're going to need updated, but this one right here for the time being inside of Crucible, super fun, and I don't think that it's going to change much once Lightfall hits, so definitely be rocking this inside of Lightfall as well. So starting out right here with this subclass, we're using Daybreak to help spread that Scorch to those enemies, as well as get that nice damage instead of popping a well inside of the Crucible. I think is super useless unless you're playing Capture the Point Trials or something like that. Now for our abilities, we're going with Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Celestial Fire, in my opinion, is definitely the better melee for Crucible, and then we're actually going with Incendiary Grenades to spread that Scorch heavily to nearby targets. This will come into play with some of our Aspect and Fragments as well. Now on top of that, we're using Icarus Dash because of our boots as well, so we can dodge while airborne, and when we have Heat Rises activated, we have an additional dodge, so that'll also come into play with our second aspect because we are going to run Heat Rises, so we can consume our grenade to keep and float while we have that Heat Rises procced, allowing us to dodge twice, which our boots actually help when we dodge mid-air, so it does become important for this build and that nice little synergy of this for PvP. So starting out right here for our fragments, we got Ember of Ashes, so we apply more Scorch stacks to the target. That comes into play with running that Incendiary Grenade, where it applies heavy Scorch stacks to targets, so we're going to get a lot of that Scorch damage to enemies, as well as a lot of those ignitions to happen, which is super nice for this build. Next off, we have Ember of Solace, so Radiant and Restoration effects applied have increased duration. This comes into play with our boots, which are going to give us Radiant on that nice weapon defeat from Vex Mythoclast. Now next right here, we have Ember of Eruption, so those solar ignitions have increased area of effect, and we're going to be getting a decent amount of them with the combination of Celestial Fire, that Ember of Ashes, as well as our Incendiary Grenade, and last but not least, those ignitions spread Scorch to the affected targets, so another way to have that positive feedback loop of just applying Scorch to all of our targets, creating ignitions. So it's a very fun solar build in my opinion, especially with that combination of exotic boots and Vex Mythoclast with Ember of Ashes here in our Incendiary Grenade. Absolutely crazy for solar synergy. Now moving on to weapons for this build, I'm going to be running the Fractithesis that I have with Slide Shot. Opening Shot definitely feels the best with that precision frame and the changes that they made to shotguns and those reticles. Now for this build, definitely super important, we're running that Vex Mythoclast, which is that nice auto rifle, fusion rifle, if you will. So it counts in the fusion rifle category, but it shoots like an auto rifle at 390 rounds a minute. So this thing absolutely destroys in Crucible, especially once you get Radiant and can do a little bit more damage. And then for our heavy, like most of our PvP builds lately, we're going to be using this nice high impact frame with 100 blast radius in Tomorrow's Answer, a nice rocket launcher from an old Trials reward. So very fun rocket, and I always bring it with me inside of the Crucible. Now moving on to our mods over here, like I said, Vex counts as a fusion rifle, so we're going to have fusion rifle targeting as well as shotgun targeting on this bad boy, and we do have triple 100s in recovery, discipline, and strength, so we can get our celestial fire in 39 seconds as well as our grenade in 47 seconds. So it's absolutely crazy, like I said, how much scorch we're going to be able to spread and those ignitions with this build, as well as becoming radiant with our boots and Vex Mythoclast. It's absolutely gnarly. Now when we move on to our arms right here, of course we have fastball on, like I said, so we can absolutely yeet that grenade. And with incendiary, I think it helps. You could bounce it off walls a little bit better and get some crazy angles with that thing. Now we're also going to have fusion dexterity for our Vex, so we can whip it out a little bit faster, especially when we're pairing it with a shotgun. We can get that shot in, switch right into the Vex, get that hip fire on, and absolutely melt an enemy. Now when we move on to our chest piece right here, we're going with unflinching duel for that fusion rifle, so we can hit some of that farther range shots and compete with those pulse rifles a little bit at that medium to longer distance with the unflinching fusion rifle and Vex Mythoclast. Now what brings this build all together is our Rain of Fire exotic boots with that Solaring Fusilier. So air dodge reloads all of our weapons, hence why we have Icarus Dance as well as Rising Heat, so we can get that nice consume of the grenade, get double dash if we need it, and we're always going to have at least one Icarus Dash up with that nice little 3-second cooldown and nothing too crazy. So this also improves airborne effectiveness for those fusion rifles. Final blows with these weapons make us radiant, which is super key for this build in the Crucible, because once you get that first defeat and become radiant, it is a nice juice to your damage, and you can absolutely melt some guardians. And if you are using that heat rises, consume your grenade, you can dodge to reload and stay up there and shoot with this thing. You get airborne effectiveness, and you absolutely can just map people, especially when you get that alternate fire mode to proc and you get that linear version. It is absolutely gnarly, like I said, and a very crazy combination that isn't being used as much as I thought it would be. Now for our mods, we got a season special one with mobility retrofit, just giving us that little bump to 42 mobility. Thought it would help in the end of just rounding out our stats a little bit more, as well as fusion rifle holster for our Vex Mythoclast. So if we don't have our dodge and we are in a shotgun battle for a second, this will hopefully give us enough time to reload that. We can switch to it, get ourselves radiant, and absolutely melt that guardian. And last but certainly not least, on our class item here, we have Radiant Light. That gives us that nice plus 20 to our strength stat, as well as double outreach, so we reduce our melee cooldown when using our class ability. We're getting our rift every 10 seconds, which again, with that 100 discipline and strength, we're getting our grenade and melee back fast anyways, but this outreach definitely helps when we cast that down with double. We're getting a nice chunk of celestial back, allowing us to again spread that scorch with our melee and our incendiary grenade, and then come in clutch with the Rain of Fire buttes and that Vex Mythoclast absolutely just tearing through guardians. Like I said, that radiant gets procced and you're absolutely eating on guardians, and it is super nice. You can just dodge to reload. You don't even got to go through the process and animation of it, so you can keep yourself alive, keep that stuff going downfield, and just rule the Crucible realm. Like I said, I don't think it's going to change too much inside of Lightfall, even though I know there are a lot of changes coming to the sandbox. So just make sure to be on the lookout for those. We got a lot of videos that have come out this season with some nice prep, so give those a look as well. But I truly appreciate that support, and get ready for some nice banging content in Lightfall as well. So I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.